All right. Sam here with you. We're May 8th here on a Tuesday. We're midday, and per the polling we do amongst members, next up is OmiseGo. OmiseGo to the dollar, actually. So I've got it up here. This is an 8-hour chart on Bitfinex. Now I've got a bit of work on this, and we're going to dig into this side of it here. Now, but just looking, so I've got the full history of it here in an 8-hour chart. So a couple of just, by habit I would do right off the bat. So this seems to be a significant pivot as it seems to be the mid-range of the entire motion of the coin. So if you look at this, it's hard not to call this a 1-2. We have this aberrant, who knows if that's a bad tick or market order or something crazy that happened, but it's really aberrant. So I would label this as 1-2. Here's we get our big 3, 4, and it appears that we complete this 5 wave here, and then this is all the correction of the move from 2015 to our peak here in the January of 2018. So corrective, right? Now digging in here a little bit more as we look at this, it's hard not to just look at it and go, oh well, I got a range. So I got a lower boundary range up here, and look, I've got this juicy range up here just of these wicks. So I've got this range that's clearly established here, and here's my pivot here. It looks like it's 50%, right smack dab in the middle of it. So are we doing anything other than working from the lower boundaries of the range to the upper boundaries to lower boundaries? It's hard to conclude anything but that. So until we get some evidence of a trend being established, if indeed we've got some sort of an impulsive movement here, we've got a motive wave. If we're coming into the midpoint, we're going to need to kick beyond this range to get any traction up to go challenge those old highs. So what are the tools? Well, how can we approach this? What's the approach? It makes me think of approaching the golf ball. Not that I play golf, but it's just that idea of approaching the ball and looking and say, okay, what are the tools that I have to work with? Well, of course, we can work with our fib tools. So if we're assuming this is corrective, well, the first thing I'm going to do is check these pivots, see if they're technical. So if I just grab my swing high to my swing low, and you can see I've got the low wicked off, is it technical? Well, it doesn't get much more technical than that. We're right into the golden zone twice. So we've double topped. So interestingly, our range has the upper part of our range right into the golden zone. Here you can see it's almost just very consistently dealing with resistance there. Market gets up here and says, okay, that's high enough. We're taking it back to the middle. Market price of OmiseGo is on sale down here. Retail up here. Wholesale, retail. Where are we going? We shall see. So looking at this now, this is not easy analysis in here because we have mixed messages. So even here on this 8-hour, I can clearly see this. So from here, this sure looks like I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4 of some sort into a 5 wave there. So it sure looks like I've got an impulse wave working off of this first ABC. So here's I get an ABC, I get 3 waves into my A. Here's my B. And then it looks like I've got all of the ingredients here for a completed C as I finish it in 5. If I break into that subdivision, I can see 1, 2, here's my 3, up for my 4, I rip down for the 5. So I've got a completed ABC. So one thought might be you thinking, oh, combination. Well, there's an ABC, X wave. Well, X wave is a corrective wave. We would be looking for that. We would not be looking for an impulse wave as our X wave. We'd be looking for it to be corrective. So, again, problem. So what do we have here? Well, you have to consider one possibility here. We don't take out the low, right? It's much like Bitcoin, where we have this deep challenge of that low, but we technically do not take it out. So you could make the argument that that's just an ABC right there, and that this could be a one wave. Certainly not the symmetry you'd anticipate, but we're kind of dealing with the same thing with Bitcoin. 1, deep 2. Do I love it? No, I don't love it, but it's a possibility, right? That's all we get to deal with, possibilities and probabilities. Well, if this is a 1, 2, then I'm looking for another 1 wave. So far, so good. I'm looking for a 1 wave because I'm anticipating that if whatever I've got, range bound, is this the start of a new trend? I've got a motive wave. I've got good subdivision here. It gets a little funky in this last one because we had some volatility, some news-driven volatility. But now it would appear that we're putting in just a very nice, gentle ABC coming right back into the mid zone. So if I clean this up a little bit, and we can think about this as a possibility here, if we're working off of this, well, here's my 5. I'm looking for a 3, A, B, C going in. So working from that low, you can get that hot. So from my low, what is going on there? There we go. Why are you not showing up here? All right, let's try that again. Okay, so let me take that off. Let's just see here. Oh, okay, there we go. So let's try again. Technical difficulty, most likely pilot error. Okay, so here we sit right here in this zone. So here we've got the Vegas wave. We've got this prior resistance over here. Remember, that's why it's worth wicking those off. They have a way of coming back in and affecting the market far beyond where they pivoted. So that this prior resistance here potentially now setting up as the support that we'll look for here if this is going to play as a 1-2. The assumption being that we've got a 1 going in, we're looking for a 2, then we're going up to 3, 4, 5. So all of that, we'll go all of that to a larger degree. So if I take that up, we can go to minuet. All right, see, that's what we're trying to build. Okay, could this work? Is that a contender? Well, we're coming smack dab into the middle of that range. We've got to see what kind of reaction we get here. Now, I'm going to take this down from an 8-hour. Let's go down to a 4-hour. We'll just cut it in half. All right, so come on, market profile. If you'll kick back for me here and clean this up here. There we go. Okay, so one thing I did notice that was worth noting here, if I work from my swing high, trying to establish this as a good technical pivot, if I work off of that, that doesn't get any more precise than that, right? So as I will often tell people, the algorithms are using pitchforks. It's one of the single most powerful technical tools, yet remains one of the most underused. It's in every charting package. I very rarely see any other technicians working with it, which fine with me. It's absolutely astonishing. We'll take note here what we have. If you allow for that swing low to swing high, we get a golden corner pocket right here. Right, there's the golden corner pocket. So from that pivot, if that pivot holds, we're right in the golden zone. I've got 80% probability of making the median line. I hit it there and to the tick right here. That's the highest odds in trading. That is as good as you'll find anywhere in any market condition is the golden corner pocket. I see so few people actually even aware of it. All right, let's take that off. So but all of that, the point of that is that we've got all of the conditions necessary here for a very technical pivot. So building our case from this is our low. Here's an objective rationale for why we would start there. All right, so that established. Now let's dig in over here. Now this gets, I'm going to take this off. So this gets a little tricky here. I've got to go down to, let's go to the 1 hour. It's a little tricky to count this. And here's just, a little bit of Elliott knowledge will be helpful here. Again, as I like to say, it's not mandatory. You don't have to become a master Elliottian to trade this methodology here, but there are times where it's very helpful to know these tendencies. So it's very hard to look at this. Let me take this off so we can come back to this. It's hard to read this any other way as this is a 1-2. So here's our technical pivot. We come off of it, we get a diagonal. There's a 1-2 in play. Well, here's the big rip for the 3. Now the 5th gets a little tough to read. So here's where having some Elliott knowledge is helpful. So we can look here and we can say, okay, from the 2 to my 3 high, where am I going? Well, I'm right, so you can just spot it right off the bat. So here's the 50, so that's a contender for my 4th, and we actually go up and we get a wick through it, but the meat of it that we hit target, and now we've had this reaction coming off of it. Well, if this is a 5, how am I counting that? Because look, if this is going to complete as a 5, how do I get this to work? Well, this is a little tricky. So from that, we do get a 1-2, and then if I measure this, you'll see that this does qualify. So if I take the length of my 1 and project it from my 2, my 3rd is coming in to the tick exactly where I'd anticipate it. right? Highest probability zone for a third relative to the length of the 1 is the 1618, right? Boom, damn near double top into it. So I've got that as my, so I'm looking at it and go, okay, 1, 2, I've got a 3, but look at the subdivision in here. One thing to consider is that that looks more like I've got an ABC, which it now immediately has me thinking diagonal. So if that's an ABC, and let me get that the appropriate degree. So if that's an ABC, all right, well, then I'm anticipating that my 4 must overlap my 1, all right? And we can see it is really close, but just barely do we overlap. Here's the pivot, right? So you can just barely do we overlap. Well, if we overlap, that means I've got a diagonal. I have the ingredients, I should say it that way. We have the ingredients for this to be playing as a diagonal. Let me take that up a degree. Go to micro. Okay, so there it is. 1, 2. I get an excuse me, an ABC into my 3, down for my 4. I get the overlap, the qualifier. I've got 3s and I get an overlap in the 4. It tells me diagonal. Well, then look at this craziness. Well, there's only one thing left. That we've got an A, we've got a B, and then we've got a big C up here to complete an ending diagonal. Only an option for us in a C wave or a fifth wave. So if you look at what you're creating here, here's the 2 to the 4, right? This comes down, doesn't overlap it. That's an ugly spike, but it does not overlap this pivot, much as it tries to. Interestingly, it holds the 1. So prior resistance becomes the support, gives us the ingredients here for an A, B to finish the C, giving us an ending diagonal to finish this as our 5th. So from this low, I get 5 waves. I get my motive wave. So if that's completed as a 5, right, and I've come right back, we know that up here we're in the golden zone, so not unreasonable that's why we pivot there. Remember, we also looked at the algo target that was there from the 2 to the 3, right? Here's the 4. Buy at the 50, they run it up to the 236 and actually get a little bit through it. So if I look at it now and I say, okay, I've got a 5-wave sequence that's complete. What am I looking for? I'm looking for my 50. What's right at my 50? All right, so here that's not relevant to this count, but prior resistance came in here. Interesting, right? Could it be support? Could be. So it's just more potential confluence here. So here's my kill zone for my 2 wave. I want to see it at least get to my 50. And as I said, I've got what appears to be the ingredients going in here for a nice A wave. Oh, pretty looking B coming down for that. So that's just textbook. Can't make it any prettier. Can't script it any better. So there's my hot box. Well, of course, we're going to look at the fib relationship for the A and the B, so I'm going to pull down to my potential A wave. What do we do? Right to the golden zone. Oh, what a shock. Right to the golden zone. Well, here's our first algo target. Well, is that problematic? Maybe, right? So if we bounce here, we're not making the 50, so maybe we have the hot box is a little bit taller here. So potential reaction here on the algo target, this would effectively be a front run on the 50. It's not like it has to come down and tick the 50 exactly. We just know that the tendency here is the highest probability range for a second wave is between the 50 and the 618. So again, just because the algo target is there doesn't mean we stop there. We could easily go to the second. We could go down here to the 618. We don't know, but so this is something to watch for. Do we get a reaction here and then start moving away from it? Well, what else can I use? What else can I use? Well, of course, if I've got 3 pivots, we're going to put a pitchfork on it. So I can work from my contender here as my A to my B. Well, I've already, that's got the modified shift, so I've already tagged the median line. So that's, kind of interesting. I would want to consider original is going to be steep on this. So if you can see here, we could stay in it. We could be heading down here. Now we're going to have to get there pretty quickly, or we're going to get outside of the time boundaries that the original would put on the geometry here. That's a contender. That's the shift where we've come down 50% in price. You can see it here. Here's the 50. So swing high, swing low, golden zone. Potentially now we're coming down here to the lower parallel. You know, hard to say. We've got to see. So we'd be looking for the breakdown within this C wave here. So if I dig into that, well, I can see the ingredients are there for a 1, 2, maybe 3, 4. We're going down for the 5. That would get us to the algo target. So 1, we got to clean some of this up. Let's take that off. So B wave in 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's check the 2 and the 4. So that's my 2 right there to my 3. Well, all right, let me clean this up so you can see it. Let's clean all that up. Okay, so 1, 2. Here's my 1. So we're going to wick off the 1 as always. All right, 4 holds it so far. 4 has held. Right, so we have the ingredients here to be finishing with an impulse wave. Here's the algo target. Lower geometry. Are we spot on here? Let's get them. Absolutely, they got to be right on those pivots. How am I doing up here? Little tweak there to get it smack dab on it. There we go. Okay, so potentially there. So you got to kind of keep an eye on it and see which one fits better. So now looking at that as with the shift, you know, possibly the modified shift here if we're coming down to the lower parallel to get to the 50. My guess is that we're too steep for original here to work in the time frame. So here's our golden corner pocket yet again. Right, so here's our golden coming down. We already made the median line. Here's the algo target. So this whole thing is kind of, you know, creating a scenario here where I've got the ingredients for a buy zone here and a buy zone that's deeper. Right, here's my 50. All right, so I would look at it that way. So possibly, you know, one way to approach this is 25%, 30% of your position on the algo targets here, assuming we're going to have a shallow second wave, right? Is that an assumption you want to make, that we're going to stay in the 12% of wave 2s that only go to that don't make the 50? Let me phrase it that way. That don't make a 50% retracement of the length of the 1 wave? Possible. Certainly setting up for that. So that might be 25% of your position. If it starts to move away from that and starts to look like you've got the beginnings of a motive wave and you get a 5-wave structure, you can always add on the 2. If we're going to keep going and get down here to these lower targets and get to where we really are looking for it, well, that's actually the -1. Where's my 100? I got to pull back. Sorry. Got to get my 50. Oh, I took it off. That's what I did. Okay, so if I establish that as my low to my high here, here's my 50 right here. So if I move this up a tad, there's my second buy. So first bite at it. All right, if you're anxious, right into that. If you're not willing to wait, I wait. If I miss it, I'll just wait. For the next pullback. So if that pivots there and then starts to go, well, if I get 5, then I'm looking for the next correction. So I'd be taking that, looking for the pivot to move off of that towards that. So bringing it all the way back. So if I miss here, I don't worry about it. Because there's going to be, if it's going to play that way, there's going to be a second that I can buy into, looking for the third. That would be the third. Well, you wouldn't know whether that's the third of the 1 wave or the third of the 3rd wave. No way to know it. All we can say is I have a lot of confluence getting established here, and I have my high probability zones down here at the 50. So do we get there? Well, we don't know yet. But definitely one to be on your radar. We've got this nice 5. We're coming back into that halfway zone. We've got geometry. We've got pattern. We've got price. Everything you would look for. All of the ingredients here with reasonable downside control, as we don't want to let this absolute out would be under the 65. Right, so that gives you a whole lot to work with. Much of this is kind of hurry up and wait. We've got to get a pivot established down here. You know, is it here? Could we be getting it that far? Are we going to get a little kick in the 5th of the C wave? You got to wait and see. So that's about as much detail as I can offer to you right there. I certainly like the project, like the trade, but I would not go all in here. I'd do, you know, if I had to, 50 here, 50 here. All right, guys, I'll wrap it there.